Hey there, Roberto here, ready to spill the beans on one of the wildest experiences of my life. Buckle up, this is going to be quite the ride. It all began on an unusually sunny afternoon. My wife, Maria, was away on a work trip, leaving me to fend for myself in our charming little home. Now, don't get me wrong, I can handle a bit of DIY, but when it comes to repairs, let's just say my skills are a work in progress. I was staring down a stubborn cabinet door that seemed to have a personal vendetta against me when I got a text that made my day. Roberto. Need some help with anything? Teresa. Teresa, my mother-in-law, was a force of nature. With a heart as big as her laugh, she had this infectious warmth that made you feel like you were wrapped in a cozy blanket. We had always had a good relationship, filled with playful banter and an unspoken understanding. So, I replied, sure. I could use some help with this rebellious cabinet. Can you swing by? Before I knew it, she was at the door, tool belt slung around her waist like a badge of honor. Alright, let's tackle this, she declared, her eyes sparkling with determination. As we entered the kitchen, I couldn't help but notice the familiar scent of her favorite citrus cleaner. It always reminded me of sunny days and freshly baked cookies. The kitchen was bright, sunlight streaming through the window, casting warm patterns on the tiles. It was the perfect day for some home improvement. First things first, let's see what we're working with, Teresa said, bending down to inspect the cabinet door. I tried to suppress a chuckle as she squinted, hands on her hips like a seasoned detective. I've seen worse, but it's definitely got a mind of its own. I stood there, admiring her enthusiasm. You make it sound like we're going into battle, I joked, handing her a screwdriver. She grinned, her laughter filling the room. Every repair is a battle, Roberto. Just remember, I'm on your side. With each turn of the screwdriver, our banter flowed easily. We exchanged stories about life, shared laughs about our favorite family gatherings, and even poked fun at my not-so-handy skills. Teresa was a natural problem solver, her hands deftly maneuvering as she tightened screws and adjusted hinges. I admired her confidence, it was as if she was performing a delicate dance, and I was her clumsy partner trying to keep up. Honestly, it's impressive how you handle these things, I admitted, handing her another tool. I might need to take notes for future reference. Just think of me as your repair guru, she quipped, her eyes glinting with mischief. Who needs YouTube tutorials when you have me around? As the afternoon wore on, I began to notice the sun shifting in the sky, casting a warm glow over the kitchen. Teresa's presence felt comforting, like a familiar melody playing softly in the background. We worked side by side, our camaraderie building with every little success. With each completed task, I felt a sense of accomplishment, not just for the repairs but for the easy rapport we had developed. Yet, amidst the laughter and shared stories, I started to sense something subtly shifting in our interactions. Perhaps it was the way she brushed her shoulder against mine when reaching for a tool or the playful glint in her eyes when she teased me about my DIY disasters. Those innocent moments, once just part of our routine, began to feel charged with a new kind of energy. As I caught her gaze, I realized how much I appreciated her company. There was a warmth there, something that felt deeper than simple friendship. I pushed the thought away, telling myself I was just imagining things. After all, she was my mother-in-law, and my loyalty lay firmly with Maria. We wrapped up our work, standing back to admire the now functional cabinet. Look at that. You're officially a cabinet whisperer, Teresa said, her eyes sparkling with triumph. Thanks to you. I couldn't have done it without my trusty repair guru, I replied, sharing a smile that lingered a moment longer than usual. But as the day wound down, I couldn't shake that strange feeling that had settled in the pit of my stomach. What was happening here? Was it just the warmth of the afternoon sun playing tricks on my mind, or was there something more brewing beneath the surface? As we cleaned up, I realized that the day had turned into something unexpected. I felt grateful for Teresa's help, but I couldn't ignore the undercurrents that had started to flow between us. What would happen next? Could this familiarity lead us somewhere we hadn't intended? And as I closed the door behind her, I wondered, was I ready to face whatever was brewing in this tangled web of emotions? After Teresa left that day, I was left with a peculiar mix of emotions swirling inside me. The cabinet was fixed, but my thoughts were anything but organized. I couldn't shake the warmth of her laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she teased me, and the innocent moments that now felt tinged with something more. As evening descended, I found myself wandering through the house, replaying our afternoon together. Days turned into a blur of routine, but the memories lingered like a sweet melody stuck in my head. I'd catch myself smiling at the little things, like how she held the tools with such expertise or the playful banter that danced between us. The friendly rapport was becoming a new normal, and I had to admit, I was enjoying it more than I should. The following Saturday, Maria had another work event, leaving me alone again. Teresa, ever the helpful mother, texted me. Need any help with your weekend projects? A part of me hesitated. But the other part, the one that craved her company, quickly responded, sure. I could use a hand. Before I knew it, she was back, a radiant smile on her face and a toolbox in hand. What are we fixing today, superstar? She asked, playfully ruffling my hair. I chuckled, the ease of our interaction putting me at ease. We moved to the backyard, where a garden shed desperately needed organizing. Looks like a tornado hit this place, she exclaimed, surveying the chaos. More like my last attempt at DIY, I quipped, feeling a flush of warmth as she laughed. As we dove into the project, I noticed how close we stood, brushing against each other as we reached for tools. The air was charged, and I felt that familiar flutter in my stomach every time she caught my eye. You know, she said, handing me a hammer, I always thought you were a little too serious. I mean, who can't even fix a cabinet? I feigned offense. Hey! I can fix things, thank you very much. I just prefer to keep things interesting. Her laughter rang out, a beautiful sound that made my heart race. But in that laughter, I felt a shift, an intensity that made my heart skip a beat. As we worked, I couldn't help but steal glances at her. Teresa was lively and radiant, her energy contagious. I could feel my pulse quickening, my mind racing as I tried to ignore the thoughts creeping in. Was this really happening? I was falling for my mother-in-law. In the midst of sorting through old paint cans and gardening tools, I reached for a particularly stubborn one at the back of the shed. My foot slipped, and in an instant, I found myself tumbling toward her. Whoa, she exclaimed, and before I knew it, I crashed right